there it is, the one bait. If I could only have one bait to bedfish with, that's it right there. It's a little creature bait. It's white. I like the smaller one. I like this situation. I like the white when I'm visibly sight fishing for bass, and sometimes when I'm not. But you can go with natural colors, like, you know, green pumpkin, black and blue, that kind of stuff. But during the spawn, there is something about a white creature bait. This is a Missile Baits Baby D-Bomb, pearl white. I've caught so many fish on this thing. It is crazy. Now, I have a system when we're talking about bed fishing. I like to have a small, a medium, and a large bait. My large bait's Missile Baits Destroyer. My small one's a little bomb shot on a drop shot. But my middle size, small, medium, large, my middle one, and the one that I probably would I start with on almost every single fish, whether it's a buck bass, you know, a little small buck bass, or you know, might be a 4 or 5, 6 pound female. I'll throw that little Baby D-Bomb, put a 3/0 Gamakatsu heavy cover worm hook in there. Make sure it's rigged perfectly straight. I've messed around with the sizes a lot. 5/16 tungsten weight seems to be the one that works the best. Strike King makes a good one. Titan Tungsten, I think, is who makes this one right here. Very, very good. There's a handful of really good brands of tungsten out there right now. And then I use a little bobber stop on the front so that the weight doesn't go too far, especially if I'm working a fish that's in a little grass clump, or it could be over a limb inside of a laydown. I don't want that weight to go too far away from the bait, but I want to give it a little bit of action. So give it just about that right there. Just let it kind of jump up there just a little bit. Give it a little extra action, and there's a handful of different companies that make these. 6th Sense makes some. Eagle Claw makes some. Who else? VMC makes a good one. The large ones are good. And then I'm tying to Sunline 20-pound shooter. Sunline shooter is the deal. That's what I flip and pitch with on everything. This is the rod I've been using for a handful of years, ever since they came out with the Icon. This is the Cashin Icon flipping stick, 7/6 medium heavy. That is the one I like. It gives a little bit of backbone, so you can hopefully see that right there. Got a little backbone to it. A little tip, excuse me, a little bit of tip, but you got a lot of backbone. So you can just absolutely put the wood to them, and you don't have anything to worry about. I've caught plenty of 6s and 7s on this rod. Set the hook like like you mean it, and the rod is good. And also, made in America. See, it's made in America. Cashin rod, made in America, right down in North Carolina. And with the setup, I'm going with a Daiwa Zillion. I changed from the Tatulas to the Zillions. I should say upgraded, because they're more expensive reel. I know they're really expensive reel, but it's my profession. It's what I do for a living. So I'm gonna get the best that I can justify. I mean, the Stees are ridiculous, but they're more expensive. The Zillion's the best ones for me. So I did with the Zillion SVTW 8-to-1 high. I like that really high gear ratio, because if I'm working a fish and I pitch in there and I hop it out of the bed, I want to be able to reel it in as fast as possible and get that bait right back out there. That's kind of the reason. I mean, you can see that 8-to-1, dude. It doesn't play, son. It's like a kid in timeout. Does not play at all. Get in the corner, son. That high speed reel is very key, because sometimes you might pitch it and you're off just a little bit, but I do not want to let that bait hit the water. So I can stop it and then reel it, and a lot of times, and pull that bait back 3/4 of the way or more back to the boat before it touches the water, so I don't spook the fish. To me, that's a big deal. That's one of the reasons I like that high speed reel, that really high speed reel. And when you're talking about fighting the fish, you don't fight the fish with a reel, you fight the fish with a rod. So you set the hook, you reel up your slack, and then you just keep dragging them with the rod, not with the reel. So don't worry about the leverage situation. But that is my go-to. And a lot of times when I'm pulling up on bedfish, like I said, this is probably my number one go-to on the bedfish. Pulling up to them, I spot that fish. I'm gonna watch it and try to read it. I'm not gonna immediately cast, usually. Usually I just watch it and read it. If I see that fish is kind of settling in, I try to see where they're settling into. And then I'll take ye old white baby D and I try to pitch it as far past the bed as I can, and then I'm gonna swim it. I'm gonna swim that bait into, not directly into the bed yet. I'm gonna swim it to right up to the edge if it's not obstructed. Try to swim it to the far edge and then let the bait hit. See if the fish looks and acknowledges. If that fish turns and looks at that bait swimming in as it comes and sits down, that's a real good sign. Real good, Clark. Mighty nice. Reel that thing, and then you can give it little hops and hop that bait into the bed. And then if you get a fish that, I call it acknowledges the bait. If that fish acknowledges the bait on the first cast, real good chance you're going to be able to catch that fish. So the first couple casts, what I'll do with that baby D-bomb, once I see how that fish reacts, even if the fish does not react to it and acknowledge it, and if it doesn't spook off like crazy wild person, I'm gonna all of a sudden I'm gonna divide that bed up into like quadrants. So I'm gonna try the left edge, I'm gonna try the left third, I'm gonna try down the middle, I'm gonna try the right third, and then I'm gonna try the right edge. I'm gonna divide that bed up into quadrants, and I'm gonna slowly shake that bait and see how that fish reacts as it goes through those different quadrants. If you find out that like on the left side of the bed, he didn't really care, he's like, yeah, whatever, bro. Gets on the right side of the bed and he's like, hey, what's going on over here? They get that little head like that. They're like, whoa, what is that there? Then you might want to just keep going back to that spot. See how they react. See where you can get a reaction from them. First of all, and then once you kind of get their attention and you really get them fired up, then you can kind of start with the big hops on there. But really, most bass you can work with this thing right here. If you get a fish that's acknowledging the bait but not actually biting this one, then you might want to switch to the destroyer, or you switch to the drop shot. In the same breath, if you get a fish that is territorial, won't leave the bed or that little bed proper area, and you're using this bait, then you try the destroyer, then you try the drop shot, see if if either one of those get a reaction from that fish, or let them acknowledge it. I've had a lot of fish, man, you're pitching in there and the fish might kind of look at it here and there, but really it's not really too much interest. Man, you throw like 2 casts with that destroyer, and then that fish is like upright, breaking its neck trying to look down at it. That can be a big help. But then sometimes they don't look at either one of those. You throw the drop shot in there, next thing you know, your line's zinging off. You're like, man, I didn't even see the fish eat it. And then you got them, set the hook, and high-fiving your buddies, fist bumping, put it in the net, well, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. But those are, but to me, it all really, this is the go-to. This is the guy. I really like it at short. You could see how they have a hard time just picking up this part of it without getting the hook. I mean, even if they just try to get a little bit of it, a lot of times they'll just go ahead and get past that hook point to where, you know, you yak on them like that, and you're gonna hook up with them. But one other tip with my little go-to bait here is, if you should happen to get one that you watch and you look and you see and that sucker's got it picked up just like this, put a little tension on that line. Put a little tension on that line, because a lot of times what happens is you put a little tension on it and they'll suck it right in with that tension. It feels like it's gonna come out of their mouth, and they'll suck it right in, because you know what? You ain't gonna catch that fish anyway. So if you pull it out of his mouth, maybe he'll get frustrated and be like, hey, what the heck, man? So it'll keep you from foul hooking fish. And then sometimes it kind of aggravates them. I feel like when you just kind of raise up, if it does fall out of their mouth, sometimes they get kind of aggravated. You pitch it back in there, then they'll actually eat it more for real. Or what happens more times than I care to admit, like you just go to pull on it like that, and then they just eat the whole thing. It feels like it's getting away from them. So hopefully my number 1 bed fishing bait will help you catch a few more bass. And also, when you're bed fishing, it's a good chance it's April, Autism Awareness Month. My boy BMP, Brandon Michael Polnick, he supports autism awareness, and he always has really cool t-shirts. This was from a couple years back, but be sure to always check out what Brandon's doing. Follow him on all the socials, because he is a good dude and a good fisherman and a good teacher as well. So go catch with that little deal right there.